I'm Dr. Sri Banerjee, core faculty for the College of Health Sciences and Public Policy at Walden University. And in this lecture, I will be going over life on land and sustainability on life on land. Now, a couple months back, I had been doing a series on the Sustainable Development Goals. And of course, as a result of this series, I went through the first 14 of them, and the one before this is Life Underwater, which is an interesting one in and of itself. But this one in particular actually has 21 different indicators. So that's quite a few, and it's beyond the scope talking about the indicators separately, but some of them are important to keep in mind, especially as we are thinking about conservation in life on land. We have to preserve and maintain biodiversity. And there's some of these stories, like Equal in the Eyes of Bees. Bee populations are decreasing in tremendous amounts. There's deforestation. There's a loss of valuable habitats and land degradation, soil erosion, and release of carbon into the atmosphere. So this is why sustainability practices are so crucial in starting to make sure that we're not only tracking but also holding accountable for some of these indicators. So 15.1.1 goes into forest area as a percent of total land area. And what you can always do is go in and look at the data sets, and has some neat animation on the side. Enjoy the animation. 15 life on land forest area as a percentage of total land area. So this indicator measures the proportion of the world's land area that is forested and is expressed as a percentage. Changes in forest area can actually reflect changes in demand for land for other uses. And to me, this is where we get into trouble. When I say we, I mean humankind gets into trouble, and we start going into talking about how transmission takes place from vector-borne diseases into the human population. Because when these habitats start getting destroyed, there are not only land degradation an issue, but also an increase in areas where there's mosquitoes and other types of zoonotic diseases. Anyway, so um, so restoration and sustainable use of terrestrial and inland freshwater ecosystems and their services, in particular forests, wetlands, mountains, and drylands, in line with obligations under international agreements. So this then goes into looking at several regions and the value that is there in that region. That is the proportion of total land area, which is forest. So you can see some of these countries, like Afghanistan, at 1.85% in Central Asia, whereas forested areas in Pakistan are a bit higher. India, even higher, 24. I've actually traveled to some of the jungles in India. 24%, so a quarter. And you can see this progression over time. So you can see back in 2000 how much of the countries were in fact forest. And for Sri Lanka, back in 2000, it was 34%. And let's take a look, since it's an island nation, 2020. Sri Lanka is 34%, so increased in value in forest area from 2000. So 34.55 to, well, it actually decreased very slightly. Anyway, um, Eastern Asia, same thing. You can go in and compare and take a look. So, as you can see, the granular detail of all of these can go as detailed as possible. There is tier classification, data on indicator, global data set. Um, so here are the key results in terms of some of these Tableau data sets analysis. The all of Earth's land surface is covered by a third of the percentage of forest. That's about 100 million hectares of forest cover less than 2 decades ago. Um, so that this type of loss has tremendous consequences. And of course, forests play an important role for livelihoods and the well-being of rural and urban populations, contributing to regulating water cycle, mitigating climate change, and also home to world's terrestrial and biodiversity. Of course, COVID-19 has negative impacts as well. But I want you to also, if you're interested in land related issues, sustainable development goals, then go over this, especially and I've only scratched the surface. Remember at the beginning, I said that there were quite a few indicators for 15. So there's all of this, all of these action items, related links that you can actually partake in, and then access the status. So if I go into every single link, it will be beyond the scope of what I can go over here. But again, there are 21 indicators, and some of these, like progress towards sustainable forest management, that is also important. So we can make sure that forests are maintained. And actually, where I live in Pennsylvania, there has been reforestation efforts as well. So these types of efforts definitely need to continue. So that sums up the crux of many of what is discussed, much of what is discussed in SDG 15. Thank you for listening. Now, in this additional segment, I'm just going to read to you Sustainable Development Goal number 15. I did introduce it to you at the beginning, but did not actually read it. So here it goes. Protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation, and halt biodiversity loss. So this is a very strong declarative goal number 15. So in this segment, I'm going to go over just quickly the targets and means to achieve targets. These are always important, and I think this is especially important for life on land. So conserve and restore terrestrial and freshwater ecosystem 15.1, we already went over that. But also ending deforestation, restoring degraded forests, end desertification and restore degraded land, ensure conservation of mountain ecosystems. And what comes to mind for me, of course, is the Appalachian Mountains, but there's mountain ecosystems all around the world. Protecting biodiversity and natural habitats 15.5. 15.6 is promoting access to genetic resources and fair sharing of the benefits. And a lot of this has to do with agriculture and creating resilient seed pools so that they can be drought resistant and actually prevent famines and things of that sort. Eliminating poaching and trafficking of protected species, preventing invasive alien species on land and in water ecosystems. And a lot of times what happens is a plant that is in balance in one environment, when you transplant it to another area, it actually takes over and starts to eliminate some of the other biodiversity. And so kudzu is an example of this, integrating ecosystem and biodiversity in governmental planning, increasing financial resources to conserve and sustainably use ecosystems and biodiversity, finance and incentivize sustainable forest management, and then combat 15. So A, B, C, the last three, increasing financial resources to conserve, sustainably use ecosystems and biodiversity, that actually, and it looks to be that way as well, these are means to achieve targets. So incentivizing financially sustainable forest, that is a means to achieve. And then combating global poaching and trafficking. So that sums up the rest of the Sustainable Development Goal 15. Again, thank you for listening.